Thank you for staying with SABC News. This is Your Money on Market Sense. My name is Diabo Seto. A little later, I'll be also bringing you SME on Point. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has proposed the introduction of a two-pot system that will ensure that workers withdraw and preserve their retirement funds at the same time. Financial advisors have given this a thumbs up and say this will help to encourage the preservation of retirement. But they've also urged workers not to access their part of their savings or retirement savings or use the money responsibly and also for the right reasons.
Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana said during his medium-term policy statement that workers will be allowed to access part of their contributions while the remaining portion will be preserved until retirement. But he indicated that these measures will require changes to the legislation and further consultation. He has reiterated that withdrawals would also depend on the affordability of the pension fund and members' savings available.
On retirement reforms, we are proposing measures to boost household savings by increasing preservation before retirement and to increase flexibility through partial access to retirement funds through what is called a two-pot system. In terms of this system, individuals will be able to access contribution to one end of the pot while contributing to other pot would be saved until retirement. These measures would require legislative changes.
Many cash-strapped consumers want to access a portion of their pension fund as they struggle to make ends meet. But financial advisors say this is likely to reduce the value of your retirement funds and will affect one's ability to benefit from compound interest and the tax-free returns benefits. About 80% of workers do not preserve their pension funds when they change jobs, and experts have called on workers to only consider withdrawing from their pension funds when it is absolutely necessary.
If the funds get abused, it wouldn't be the ideal scenario. It's not the purpose of what this proposal is trying to achieve. And it will be, in terms of the tax that will be incurred on withdrawal, in terms of compromising the compounding effect, it wouldn't make sense to withdraw your retirement funds and to use the money for a fancy car or for materialistic items. It would, from a financial planning perspective, it's advisable to only do it for your basic needs if there is a need to withdraw. But otherwise, if you are working, you do have a job, you do have an income, then it's not something that would be recommended because it would compromise your overall financial position.
But it's not all doom and gloom. Workers who usually cash in their pension funds when they change jobs will now only be allowed to withdraw a portion of their retirement savings. Experts are optimistic that this will help ensure that more people have enough money for retirement and that they do not depend on state grants.
Withdrawing from the retirement savings will compromise one's retirement. But on average, when you compare the statistic that 80% of people withdraw their pension funds on changing jobs, if you use that as the benchmark, with the new proposal that forces people to preserve 2/3 of their pension fund, on average, there'll be more retirement savings available at retirement age.
Minister Godongwana says that legislation will have to be passed to ensure that this act is implemented and that further announcement on the matter is expected to be made in next year's February budget. Naledi Matlapeng, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Blessing Mutete, he's the head of Old Mutual Corporate Consultants, will be speaking to us about the issue of retirement reforms. Blessing, are you online? Have you been able to join us? Yes, you're online. Blessing, welcome to Your Money on Market Sense. The issue of this partial withdrawal of retirement funds is one that has drawn a lot of conversation, certainly among my friends and colleagues, about whether this would make a good financial decision to make, particularly when you consider that people are actually struggling to make ends meet right now. What would you advise?
Thank you, Liabo, and thank you for having us on your show. I think importantly, as has been said in last insert, ideally one would say early access while still employed is absolutely the last resort. However, as you've mentioned, we know that the period we're in with the COVID pandemic and the reality that members generally don't have any other savings outside of the retirement funds. One would say in the event of financial emergencies, one would need to then dip into their retirement savings, which is being muted through these early access measures.
Let's talk about the implications of now one definitely takes this move and you decide you will take whatever the percentage that government will put forward. What do you think the long-term implications will be? Do you think people will be able to play catch-up?
I think there's a couple of things. The first thing is that there's no substitute to the time in the market and time invested in your retirement fund. So once you take a portion of your retirement savings out, it will be very difficult to replace that quantum. But we also know that in South Africa, a lot of our members of retirement funds exit and take their money in cash and spend it on other things. What the two-pot system, which the minister mentioned, is saying is that 2/3 potentially of the two-pot system will be preserved until you get to retirement. So hopefully we see a future where more people have preservation of their assets for longer in retirement funds because they won't have been able to take it when they change jobs, which has been the case at the moment. So we expect a very small portion to be able to be taken out as the early access measures, but the majority or the balance of that money is money that's going to be saved throughout employees' working careers, and hence that's why the industry is saying it has good intentions and may improve outcomes for many members in South Africa.
Yeah, I've been curious myself about when you have an employer contribution or a pension employer pension fund, and also you have a separate retirement annuity. I wonder, do you think that one would have the choice to choose between withdrawing the other and not the other, or can you withdraw from the same pot, and would that make a good financial decision?
Yeah, Liabo, those are some of the details that we expect to come from the minister when he announces in February, or when we get the second paper that we're expecting to be issued together with the medium-term statement that came out yesterday. But one would expect that the conditions or the early access conditions will apply to all retirement funds, including retirement annuity funds that you've just alluded to.
Yeah.
But I think overall, importantly, is to also appreciate that any early access, like current withdrawals before you get to retirement, have punitive tax implications. So there's more tax that you're going to pay if you take that money now as opposed to when you take it at retirement.
Yeah, I'm glad that you touched on the issue of tax, because it's quite confusing for a lot of people. I've had a lot of calls where people say, I'm expecting this much, but I understand I have to pay tax off this much. When it comes to retirement and tax, it's really quite misunderstood, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is, and I think that's where we hopefully will see, the more emphasis in the education, that when you take money early and before the time you were meant to take it, which was at retirement, you were saving for retirement, and you got tax benefits for saving for retirement. You do get tax benefits when you take that money out at retirement.
Yeah.
And then there are punitive tax regimes that are in place when you take it before you get to retirement. So when you exit and change jobs and you take that money, you're going to be taxed quite heavily for doing that, as opposed to leaving it preserved.
Yeah. Blessing Utete, the head of Old Mutual Corporate Consultants, thank you so much. That's all we have time for.